Hey guys, welcome back to Normal Notes. We are going into 7.5, which is where we left off before spring break. So welcome back. We're going to solve some rational equations today, and there's a few ways to do it. So we're going to start with some simple rational equations. Our steps, we're going to cross multiply, we're going to solve for x, and we're going to definitely check our answers to make sure that no zeros are happening in the denominator. So we're going to go ahead and cross multiply on this first problem. So I end up with x squared minus x equals 2x. Remember, you can pause videos at any time you need to. Just make sure that you are actually trying some of the problems on your own so that you can ask me any questions that you guys have. Okay, so right here, I went ahead and moved everything to one side to get it equal to 0 so that I would be able to factor this since it had an x squared. So now I'm going to go ahead and factor one of those x's out. I get x, and then x minus 3 equals 0. So remember, guys, you set each of those pieces equal to 0. So I have x equals 0 as one of the answers. And then when I set the second piece equal to 0, I get that x equals 3 as one of the answers. Okay, we just want to make sure that we plug those back in and double check that they do work. So go ahead and pause the video. Remember, we can't have any zeros in the denominator. So if I check that one, I plug in my zeros, that's a no-go, so that's not going to work. Okay, what if I plug in a 3? We want to double check that that does work. So I have 3 squared minus 3. Remember, that's 2 divided by that number, so this one does indeed work, so you get x equals 3. Hey, second example. Let's go ahead. We're going to cross multiply this one. Remember that you have to be careful when you cross multiply these. Make sure that you get all of those pieces. So it's really like 6 times x minus 2. And then on the other side, x minus 1 times x minus 2. So you do actually have to multiply both of those pieces times 6 on the left. So we get 6x minus 12. And then we are going to FOIL on the right hand side. Remember, pause anytime that you guys need to. This is going to be x squared minus 2x minus x plus 2. I'm going to go ahead and combine those like terms there. So I have x squared minus 3x plus 2. And then I'm going to get everything to one side so that I can factor. So I'm going to go ahead and move all of mine over to the right hand side this time. So subtracting 6x and adding 12. And I get x squared minus 9x plus 14. Okay. Remember, you guys can use your calculators at home to help you factor if you want to, or this one actually factors pretty nicely, x minus 7 and x minus 2. So I get x equals 7 and x equals 2. Okay. Remember to double check that those don't give me a 0 in the denominator. Both of them are fine, so both of those are my answers. Hey, the next type of problem is going to be a little more complicated. So we're going to factor our denominators. We're going to find the least common denominator. You guys have been practicing this for a while, and determine the domain. So maybe where x can't be a certain number. Okay, remember, we can't have any zeros in our denominator. Then we're going to multiply through by the least common denominator so that all denominators will cancel. We're going to solve it, and we're going to check our answers. So question number 3 says 2x divided by x plus 3 equals 1. This is the new part. It's a little bit different, a little more complicated. Minus 6 over x plus 3. Okay, so what I'm going to look for first is anything where my domain cannot exist. So to me, I'm looking at the bottom of these and I'm thinking, well, if I have a negative 3 in there, that's going to give me 0. So that's not going to work. Okay, I do know that this x plus 3 is my LCD. It's my least common denominator. So the only part that's missing that is this right here. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom of this function, or this fraction right here, this 1, by x plus 3. Okay, remember, any whole number can be written over 1, so it's like 1 over 1. So I'm going to have 2x over x plus 3 equals x plus 3 over x plus 3. Minus 6 over x plus 3. Okay, when this happens, all of these cancel. Okay, your denominators are all the same, so you're really just focused on the numerators at this point. So I have 2x equals x plus 3 minus 6. Go ahead and combine those like terms. Subtract your x over. So you get x equals negative 3. Okay, this one looks like it only has one solution as an answer, but remember, x, we said, could not equal negative 3, so this is actually no solution for this problem. Okay, so if you get one answer and it says that's not part of your domain, make sure you know that's only one solution, and that means no solution is actually existing there. It can't be negative 3. Okay, number 4, looking at the bottom, this one does factor, so I'm going to go ahead and write x plus 2, x minus 2 under that one to remind me what's happening down there. Okay, and I'm also going to write my domain, so I know that can't be a positive 2 or a negative 2, because that's going to make those zeros down there. Okay, my LCD this time is that term x squared plus 4, which remember factors into x plus 2, x minus 2, so on the left we're just mixing our x plus 2, top and bottom. And this term over here, this 1 is missing both, so you can either multiply that by x squared minus 4, or you can multiply it by both of those pieces. Okay, I'm just going to multiply it by x squared minus 4. Okay, remember I am going to have to FOIL over here on the left-hand side. So this ends up with 3x squared minus 2x plus 6x minus 4 over x plus 2x minus 2 equals, okay, this part's fine, so it's going to stay that way, x squared minus 4 on the bottom. And then we have an x squared minus 4 over an x squared minus 4. Okay, our denominators are all the same now, so those are gone, they cancel. I get 3x squared minus 2x plus 6x minus 4 equals 6 plus x squared minus 4. Okay, now at this point I'm going to combine some like terms. So I have 3x squared plus 4x minus 4 equals x squared plus 2. Okay, I'm going to move everything to the left this time, so I'm going to subtract the x squared and subtract the 2. So I end up with, 2x squared plus 4x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take a 2 out of this to make it a little bit easier for me to factor, because then I know that's going to factor into x minus 1 and x plus 3. So x should be 1 and negative 3. Now I'm going to double check both of those that they're not part of this domain restriction. They are not, so I am good. Okay, number 5. First thing I'm looking at is my denominators. It looks like I do need to factor one of my denominators over here. This is going to become 2x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. So that's going to help me figure out what my least common denominator is. Okay, it looks like this first fraction is missing the 2x minus 3 top and bottom. And the second fraction is missing the 2x plus 3 top and bottom. Okay, remember least common denominator, we want all the denominators to be the same. Out to the side, I'm going to make note of where my x cannot be. Remember that is anywhere that these are set equal to 0. So I'm looking at 3 halves and negative 3 halves as places that it cannot be. If I set those equal to 0, those would be what I get. Okay. So I'm keeping that in mind as I'm solving the problem. Remember, if that happens to be the answer, you have a no solution. So right now I've got a 10x minus 15 plus 8x plus 12 all over 2x minus 3, 2x plus 3. I just put both of these pieces together. Okay, it doesn't matter to me whether you do them separately or together. And then the other side of the equation was already good. It already had that 4x squared minus 9 on the bottom to make the denominators all the same. I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms as I bring it down this time. So I have 18x minus 3. Oh, hold on. There we go. All right, 18x minus 3 equals 14x plus 3. And then I'm going to subtract my 14x over. And I'm going to add my 3 over. So I end up with 4x equals 6. And when I divide by 4, I get x equals 3/2. But remember, that was where it could not exist, so this is going to be a no solution problem. No solution. Okay, last thing we're going to do is go over inverses again. Remember, an inverse happens when we switch the variables and solve. So remember, another term for f of x is y equals. So I have y equals 2 over x minus 4. I'm going to switch those variables, so now it's going to look like x equals 2 over y minus 4, and then solve for y. Okay, remember you could write this as anything is over 1, so I'm going to cross multiply to solve mine. So I end up with 2 equals x times y minus 4. Okay, I'm going to divide by x on both sides. And then I'm going to add that 4 to both sides. So I end up with y equals 2 over x plus 4. Here's my inverse. Okay, and last problem here, I'm going to do the same thing. So remember, that's y equals 3 over x minus 2. I'm going to switch those variables. And then I'm going to solve to get y by itself. So this time I'm going to add 2 first. And then I'm going to multiply by y. Okay, notice I'm not distributing the y because I really want that y by itself. So I'm really going to rewrite it to look like this. And divide by everything that's with y right now. So y equals 3 divided by x plus 2. Hey, you guys are going to have a few problems on Clever. Over the next few days, you'll have 3 assignments total over this section. So please refer back to these notes anytime that you need them. Also, make sure you're asking me questions and emailing me or commenting on Teams. Thanks, guys, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.